You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now present the Health Hub, hosted by Cathy Biase.
Welcome to the Health Hub on Radio Maria Canada, exploring cutting-edge health and wellness information and therapies, helping you to take your health to the next level. I am your host, Cathy Biase, and I am an holistic nutritionist and a professional cancer coach. Today on our show, we are talking about the use of hypnosis for fertility with our guest, Lynsi Eastburn. Lynsi is an author and board-certified hypnotherapist, and for over 20 years, she has been helping people globally in their pre-pregnancy and pregnancy journeys. Lynsi is the founder and creator of HypnoFertility and owns her own private practice and training facility, HypnoFertility International. As the founder and creator of HypnoFertility, Lynsi is the world's established expert in the field of hypnosis to promote fertility and has been featured nationally on Lifetime Television Network, ABC, and CBS News on national and international radio programs, and has been a guest on Toronto's Breakfast Television and Canada's At Home show. This is something that was eye-opening for me. We have had one show at least on hypnosis a while ago in a different setting. But just, I know that there are many people, many couples that are struggling with becoming pregnant. This is on the rise. Statistics are showing this. And so giving the idea of another therapy that can be used in tandem with medical therapies or as a standalone is just something that I think is important right now. And it's a show that I find very valuable and I hope can reach people and give them another avenue of hope. When we talk to Lynsi, we're going to be talking about how hypnosis can help with fertility. Is hypnosis relevant for all stages of pregnancy? So preconception, attaining fertility, postpartum care. And are there limitations in the use of hypnosis for fertility? This and so many more things we touch on and talk about. If this is something that is of interest to you, I think the show you'll find very interesting in and of itself. But for those who are working to become pregnant, it's, as I said, it's another thought, another area of therapy that could be considered. So please do stay tuned with us. We will be back in just a few minutes to talk with Lynsi Eastburn.
It's like a battlefield, and my heart is overcome by fear, and hope seems like a ship that's lost at sea. My enemies on every side, and I'm tempted to run and hide. Your gentle whisper reaches out to me. Passes understanding. I remember who you are. You're the God who's never far. So I will not be afraid. God, you always keep me safe in your arms. I remember who you are. You're the God who's never far. So I will not be afraid. God, you always keep me safe. You give me peace that holds me when I'm broken. Sweet peace that passes understanding. When the whole wide world is crashing down, I fall to my knees and breathe in. I breathe you in. Take a deep breath and be still and know that you are God alone.
You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now continue with the program, The Health Hub, hosted by Cathy Biase.
Welcome back, everybody. And Lynsi, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Cathy. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this is a very interesting area of healthcare. We had a hypnotist on very early in the history of our show in a very different area. And I find that the area that you're in, working with fertility, pre-pregnancy, and pregnancy journeys, is absolutely fascinating. How did you get into this area of work?
Well, and I agree with you. I find it fascinating, and I've been doing it over 20 years. And basically, I kind of fell into it. I was working with hypnosis for birthing, and I was in general practice with my husband, actually. And we have a couple of the largest fertility clinics actually in the US and Canada. A lot of people travel. I believe it's like 50% of their people come from outside the state, and I think it's 30% come from outside the country. And so they were making huge developments in the IVF world. And I kind of feel like that contributed because there was so much of a focus on it. It's really a hub here. And so people started to trickle into my office to see if I could help them. One of the big things is a needle phobia. If you have any issues with needles, with injections, then it's going to be really difficult to do IVF because there's so many shots involved. And so that was one of the things I began working with. And women were finding that they were having what they called a night and day response, not only to being able to take the injections, but also to the hormonal ups and downs they were experiencing, pain levels in general, anxiety, and all of that kind of thing. So they wanted to work with me through the IVF process, and also through natural conception, but that's a bit of a different thing, but through pregnancy and beyond. And I was always connected with women having babies, and I always had a lot of empathy for those who had any difficulty. And so when this came my way, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I have to look into this. And there wasn't anything going on for fertility hypnosis at the time. It's not to say no one had ever, done anything with it, but there wasn't anything to be found in any significant way. I looked all over the internet. Now, of course, this is like 2001, so it's not what it is today. but I looked in books, I scoured the bookstores, I looked everywhere, and there wasn't any information available. So I really just threw myself into it and ended up, basically developing this program, and it's just incredible, and it's just continued to expand from there where I originally started, and it's been my specialty for many, many years now.
Interestingly enough, you were talking about hypnosis for birthing. That's the genesis of this whole thing. So you were working with women as they were giving birth or preparing them for birth. That's how it started?
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, I was in general practice. I did have the training for hypnobirth, and I definitely worked with clients to help them with the birthing process. And so it was kind of like, for me, okay, this is really well known, birthing hypnosis. I mean, it was really popular in the 1940s, and it does kind of come in and out of fashion, although it's been pretty much, well, fashion's not the best word, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely been pretty prominent for the last couple of decades. And so there was so much known about that, and people were so familiar with hypnosis for smoking cessation and weight loss and anxiety. And one of the things with fertility clients is they are struggling typically with a lot of anxiety. And so that really fit kind of transferred to that particular issue. Mm-hmm. And so I was really using all those various techniques to, and modifying them or adapting them to help women to get pregnant.
Just to put this last to bed, are you in the birthing room when moms are giving birth?
Oh, that's a great question. No, we don't need to be.
Oh, okay.
Which is really fantastic. So we train the moms, or I train the moms, the parents, kind of to support each other, work together. But the moms, as far as the actual birthing goes, depending on the kind of birth they want, natural vaginal birth, or to support whatever else might be going on. But I train them. They go into hypnosis multiple times while I'm working with them. And then beyond that, they're able to access this state. It's almost like they're training for it, and they're able to access the hypnotic state to have a more comfortable birth, to have a smoother birth, to have, even a more, I don't like to say the word rapid per se, but, to really be able to have a great birthing experience. I found in the fertility world, there's a lot of, Western medical intervention that happens. And so that will continue through the pregnancy and through the birth. So with my clients, often there's not an option for that natural vaginal birth. And so I've developed specialty hypnosis to help support any type of birth experience with hypnosis.
Okay, for those of us who've only experienced hypnosis on a cruise ship, take us beyond that and maybe just explain what the hypnotic process is with respect to fertility.
Okay. Well, the hypnotic process is basically the same across the board for what we're doing with hypnosis. I call that therapeutic hypnosis to distinguish from, what you might have seen on a cruise ship. Now, interestingly, what does happen in those shows is real hypnosis. And we utilize some of those similar techniques just for a different reason. So that's, medical hypnosis or clinical or therapeutic hypnosis, in office type of thing. And everyone can be hypnotized. That's always a big question for people. What if I can't be hypnotized? But everyone can be if they want to. And so it's really just a matter of, it's not complicated. It does require somebody who's doing the hypnotizing to know, what they're doing, and to be able to work with the person, to meet them wherever they are and work with them in a way that works best for them. So basically what happens, on the cruise ship is there's a hypnotic induction, what we call it. And this happens in the office as well. And you might say that we're bypassing the critical faculty of the mind. So basically we have that conscious mind, and it does all the thinking. And it's the one that scours the internet, and it's the one that's trying to figure out, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. Oh my gosh, I'm anxious all the time. I need help. nothing is working, or I'm self-sabotaging, or I can't get pregnant no matter what I do. And so that's that conscious mind that comes to that realization that we need some kind of assistance, and maybe that what we're using isn't working, or we need a boost. However, if the conscious mind could create all those changes, we wouldn't need any assistance. There wouldn't be things like, infertility, anxiety, whatever else. We'd be able to knock out habits easily just by deciding to do so. So what the hypnosis does is help to bypass that critical faculty of the mind and help you to get into the subconscious mind. So the subconscious is the emotional part of the mind, and its language is emotion, imagination, imagery, pictures, metaphor, that kind of thing. And it's, as I said, it's the larger part of the mind. If the two of them are in conflict, the subconscious mind always wins out because it's always present, whereas our conscious mind can handle up to maybe 7 things at a time. The closer I get to 7, the more scattered I'm going to be. And what happens is we'll drop into the subconscious mind, and it'll handle things for us that we know how to do. So driving, for example, that highway hypnosis you might hear about, where, you're driving to a particular place and all of a sudden there you are sitting in the parking lot of, your everyday job, but it's Saturday. Or, you've gone to the chiropractor when you were going, supposed to be going to the acupuncturist, or those kinds of things, because you're thinking about other things and your subconscious takes over. Now, this is also what happens with habit. And we think of habit as, bad habits, good habits, going to the gym, smoking cigarettes, but it's also something that we do repeatedly that we don't really have to think about. And that includes emotion. That includes certain thinking patterns. So, for example, we might be trying to think more positively or sort of change the way we look at things. But when we get distracted or stressed, all of a sudden we drop back into those old patterns. And so what the hypnosis helps to do is to make the shift at the subconscious level. And so then that becomes what I call our default. And so in the actual office, or it doesn't even have to be an office. I work online. I have a global clientele. I work with everyone these days, online. And even before the pandemic, I was, more than 50% online already. But what happens is through what we call an induction, we're able to talk to the subconscious mind to get it to the forefront. And it really is, talking, but there are techniques that we utilize, with the voice, if that makes any sense. Close your eyes, take a couple of nice deep breaths and kind of moving, through there. But you can hear everything in hypnosis. Sometimes people doze off, and it doesn't matter because the subconscious mind always hears, it always pays attention. And so, we don't care if the conscious mind listens. I tell my clients, you can listen to everything I say. You can ignore me completely. You can fade in and out. You can even sit there and wonder if you're being hypnotized. Is this working? Is this working? And it doesn't matter. Conscious mind can do whatever it wants. And then we work at the subconscious level. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Now, are you leaving cues, subconscious cues, or like the end result is what? Like, what are you hoping to achieve when you're hypnotizing somebody?
So this is multifaceted. And one of the things with hypnosis is it taps you into the parasympathetic nervous system. So especially with fertility clients, but in general, we spend so much time in fight or flight, and we are just not designed to do that. Hypnosis is the antithesis of stress, and it immediately taps you into that parasympathetic or rest and digest or feed and breed state. Mm-hmm. So that is one level that works with, and even people who can't relax or say they can't relax or think that they can't. And in the fertility world, that's a huge trigger because people are saying, well, just relax and it'll happen. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, why didn't I think of that, right? And that's like telling an insomniac to just go to sleep. And so the hypnosis will help to instantaneously access that state, which in and of itself is conducive to, being more relaxed, to getting pregnant, to, overcoming any kinds of stress or anxiety, right? So that's one level of it. Then, you mentioned cues, which we would call anchors. And one of the things that I do is I anchor the breath. So if at any time you feel any stress or tension during your daily life, your subconscious mind kicks in and you take a deep breath. And so then this becomes part of that default. And it's really interesting because sometimes people have a stressful situation happen and they don't even realize they're suddenly just taking this deep breath. And so that's another level that I use. Also, there's what we call utilization. What is the person going to encounter? A lot of times you will hear, we have to sort of fight against something, but the subconscious mind doesn't recognize those negatives. If you say, don't think of a pink elephant, what happens? You have to think of that pink elephant in order to not think about it. So I don't want to be focused on, there is a method of birthing hypnosis where they change all the words. And that's really difficult because you're trying to get all of the people involved in the birth, the doctor, the nurses, whoever's involved, to use different words. There is a reason for that as far as how wording impacts the subconscious mind, but it's not an easy thing because people are going to use the word pain. And you can take it to discomfort all day long, but they're still going to use it, especially when they're triaging someone coming in to the hospital. And one of the things my clients have said over the years, please keep talking about this with, hypnobirth, because people don't believe that I'm in labor, or they didn't believe me and I almost gave birth in the waiting room kind of thing, right? So that just in and of itself is part of that process. Okay.
Is there a science that backs the use of hypnosis in this setting?
Yeah, there are a lot of research studies, and you could totally, if you want to see them, you can look them up. But there's been lots of study on that. In the 1940s, they used hypnosis for birthing, and there was some work with fertility hypnosis back in the 40s as well. And I did a study on hypnosis for fertility because there wasn't much about that. And I did a literature review to see what I could find. And one of the things with research and studies is who's paying for them and who's interested in doing them. So in a lot of cases, I hear this and I find it to be true that women's healthcare is about, 100 years behind, what we could be doing and what we should be knowing. So there is certainly a lot of work that has been done as far as birthing hypnosis and hypnosis in general. And one of the big things it's really well known for is anxiety and irritable bowel or anything gastrointestinal responds very well to hypnosis because there are all these teeny tiny little muscles involved, little receptors throughout that we don't think about, right? We think about maybe the biceps and, the quadriceps or something like that, but they respond to stress as the subconscious communicates or influences them, communicates with or influences them. And so they continue or, the body in those particular areas will respond painfully or with difficulty to whatever's going on, and hypnosis can help to clear that out and to help to relax those areas and again to make it default. So that's one of the biggest referrals you'll find from Western medicine to hypnosis is going to be for anything along the lines of the stomach, of digestion, and that translates to birth, to fertility, to anything else, because we do have this underlying stress response that becomes just the way we react in the world. And it's unconscious. We don't think about it.
Fascinating. We're going to take a quick break here, everybody. Lynsi, when we come back, I'd like to go drill down on this a bit more for people out there who are, getting a little bit intrigued. So stick with us. We're going to drill down on this subject matter. So interesting. Everybody will be back in just a couple of minutes.
Jesus' name. Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. When darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil.
Oh, you hold us.
My anchor holds within the veil.
Oh,
Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, He is Lord of all.
oh, He is Lord. Oh, He is Lord. Oh,
Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all.
You are listening to The Health Hub here on Radio Maria Canada. A Catholic voice wherever you are. To contact us and be a part of the show, email thh@radiomaria.ca. We now continue with the program. Here once again is your host, Cathy Biase.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking with Lynsi Eastburn, and we're talking about hypnosis and fertility. And Lynsi, this is it can be such an emotional, sensitive topic, and I want to give it that space. I think, though, it's very important for people who may be becoming intrigued about this to really nail down the extent that hypnosis can impact fertility. So start off with this. Is it solely working with the medical space to try and achieve a pregnancy, or can this be a standalone therapy?
Okay, yeah, definitely. It can be both. I do, and I would say probably 50% roughly of the clients that I work with are trying naturally, and others are using some form of medical assistance. A lot of the stuff around IVF does tend to come up a lot because there is so much of that going on. So when I end up talking about it, we can easily go off in that direction. Natural conception as well. And I talk about that parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system. So fight or flight versus, you can say rest and digest, or feed and breed. It's not a good place to be in fight or flight to try to get pregnant. It's not a great idea to get pregnant or be trying to give birth when you're running from a tiger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way our systems are designed. They haven't caught up to, our contemporary society, where the tigers now are ongoing. And, they can be the traffic, they can be all of these things that have gone on since this pandemic. It caused all sorts of issues, and it still is. Things that are ongoing, the boss, the financial aspect of things, whatever it is that's affecting people can keep them in fight or flight. And so what happens when we're in fight or flight is the body takes the energy away from any area it deems unnecessary for survival. So we need to be able to run, we need to be able to freeze, we need to be able to fight. And so we can't be wasting energy on the digestive system, on the reproductive system at that time. So natural conception can be blocked just because of all sorts of stress that might be going on. Now, not to say people can't get pregnant during stress. So there can be multiple issues. And one of the big ones is a subconscious block or subconscious blocks. With the subconscious being emotional, it's also protective. And if it, for some reason, it's non-thinking, it's not logical. So if it, for some reason, gets this idea that we need to be protected, it will use whatever is kind of handiest. And people may have had issues in the past. Maybe they dealt with an abortion, or maybe they dealt with having to raise all their siblings, or experience something, all sorts of different things where they're kind of thinking they're so distressed. It's like, I can't do this. This is horrible. And the subconscious is, okay, we just won't have any children then. That'll just take care of that. That'll nip it in the bud. Except that you want to have children. And so this is not a good, a good protective method. And so the hypnosis will help to, bypass that and help to shift back into that parasympathetic nervous system, but also be on the same page with what it is that you want to do. Mm-hmm. And so that applies both to the medical aspect and the natural aspect. And sometimes it is really, we can regulate menstrual cycles with hypnosis, help with just whatever might be going on. There might be fears around bringing kids into the world. I hear that these days, and I say that in air quotes, and we've always had these days, there's always been something. There's been, in the past, there's been wars, there's been famines. You think 300-400 years ago, people had 10 children in order to hopefully keep 2 of them alive through adulthood. And, but you can, just things that are going on, political climates and all of that kind of thing can frighten people. Mm-hmm. And fear, of course, triggers fight or flight. And that's going to work against trying to conceive. So very much so, if there's no diagnosis, and there is about a 25% diagnosis of what they call unexplained infertility. And people really hate to hear that, because it feels like, well, they don't know what's wrong, so I can't do anything. But from a hypnosis standpoint, I love to hear unexplained infertility, because that says subconscious mind to me. That says some kind of emotional or subconscious block. That says something's out of alignment. And so often, we do get out of alignment or out of balance, and we're kind of ping-ponging all over the place, and we can get scattered, and it just causes more and more stress as well.
So the main, probably the key area that this hones in on is the stress response and all the beautiful things systemically that fall into place when we're managing our stress. But what are the limitations of your therapy?
Well, obviously we can't guarantee anything, right? And we all would like a guarantee with anything that we can do. We would like to have, magic wand, and there isn't anything like that. It's really not contraindicated, so we can support, almost everyone I work with is doing acupuncture or has done it. So I can support the acupuncture, chiropractic, nutrition. Sometimes people have been put on a certain diet, or maybe gluten-free or dairy-free or whatever it is that they that their practitioner has prescribed, and they have a hard time sticking with it. And so I can help support that. I really wouldn't say limitations per se, other than, there just isn't a guarantee, but it does always help. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I found in the research study that I did, and what I did was I reviewed files over a 15-year period. And I reviewed the files of people who did give birth, had a live birth. On the other side of it, one of the reasons for that is the statistics that come through from, medical clinics and so forth. They have a pregnancy statistic, not a live birth. And so I wanted to look at it from that, from that vantage point. And the one thing that I found, and this is really unusual with research, is any kind of 100% response. But 100% of the people that I worked with had said that they had an amazing response to the hypnosis. They either said so right at the end of the session or the next time they came in. And they would say, wow, I felt so much better. I was able, one of the big things is being able to get your mind off of this for 5 seconds, because it can come down to thinking about nothing but what cycle day am I on? Do I have enough cervical mucus? What is the doctor going to say? Am I going to get enough eggs from the retrieval and so forth? And so ultimately, it is such a positive experience in terms of helping mind state or helping people to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine.
Yeah.
And you're not working with just moms, right? I'm assuming that, depending on the situation, it can be just moms, but you're working with the male partner as well?
Correct. Yes. And mostly, or, good amount of the time I work with women. It typically is that women do the research, they take control, they decide what they're going to do, or, they do all of that. Men, a lot of times, will just go with the flow. And so if the female partner decides on acupuncture, hypnosis, whatever else it might be, he'll show up. Occasionally, it is specifically for the male. That's when there's male factor infertility, but women tend to want to participate anyway, because even if it's male factor, women tend to take responsibility or feel that they should. And but it can help. And sometimes I also work with couples, and I can totally do that to support the relationship, to help them at that subconscious level to be more connected, because this can be so stressful. But definitely helps with, sperm count, motility, and so forth. It is stress. And we think, though, oh, well, if it's just stress, like people tend to preface stress with the word just, but stress is massive, is unbelievable.
Permeates everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The way that it affects us. And one of the things I found early on that I found really interesting was a research study on male fertility. And what they found was, after they did a workup early on with the couple, and there was no male factor, a year after struggling with infertility and with not getting pregnant, with not having a family at this point, then they retested the men, and they had, this had significantly impacted the sperm.
I don't doubt it at all. You're talking about stress and how stress, it's just, what I think you're doing, Lynsi, is introducing a new area where the mind-body connection really hasn't been applied. And why that hasn't been, I don't know. But with you bringing this forward, it's just adding on to the myriad of studies and research of other body systems where the mind-body connection is so imperative. And, I am a big promoter of prepping for pregnancy, of getting the body into a good state before even commencing, trying to get pregnant. Can we use hypnosis, the mind-body connection, all of this that you've talked about? Is it a good piece to include in a pre-pregnancy plan?
Yes, definitely. And I do have people that decide that they're going to get pregnant or want to get pregnant, and they want to get some things in order. They want to clear old stuff, because sometimes, whether they have any difficulty getting pregnant or not, there's issues there. A lot of times mother issues come up, and they want to clear that, or they're afraid of, repeating someone's mistakes or whatever the case may be, or they may not be in the best shape physically, or there may be something off. They're out of alignment, or they're out of balance. So most certainly, And sometimes people will come to me because they're going to freeze their eggs. For example, they don't have a partner, or they're not ready to get pregnant, and they've been advised to freeze their eggs. And so they'll come with me or come to see me to do that. And we will work on all sorts of things that lead, to that healthy pregnancy once it's the right time, including sometimes helping them to find a partner.
Interesting. Now, would you be working with women, couples through all stages? So the prepping, working with them as they are trying to become pregnant, and then through the birthing process and afterwards, because afterwards still is that time where, a lot of women suffer emotionally. So is this something that you carry through to many facets of the pregnancy picture?
Yes. And that's a great point about postpartum. One of the things too is, as we work with hypnosis, it's cumulative, and I kind of explain it as circular. So it's not like we're working with something, in a straight line. Like we work with this issue and this issue. All the issues are addressed in whatever basically the subconscious decides what order they need to occur. But once you've done hypnosis, that's with you for life. And I definitely prep for postpartum. Most of my clients stay with me. They don't have to. They can, sometimes they're happy to they're pregnant and they're happy and away they go. Most of the time they'll stay with me all the way through. But even if I don't see them beyond the fertility piece, we're already prepping for all the way through the birth and beyond. So the subconscious mind doesn't, basically there's no past or future in the subconscious. It's always, everything is in the present for it. And so it really doesn't discern between, so-called reality and imagination. And so during the hypnotic process, I take clients forward and all the way through that pregnancy, birth, bringing the baby home, moving forward, integrating the baby or babies into their lives. And so to the subconscious mind, it's like, okay, we have a blueprint. This is done. And now we're just following it. I always often talk in we when I think of the subconscious mind, because it's like the subconscious is sort of communicating to us, oh, here's what we're doing. And, oh, I get it. I see what you want.
I think it's a fascinating therapy to include in the whole process. And I applaud you for bringing it forward. Are you working on any group programs or anything that you wanted to share with people?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for saying that, because it just means so much to me. My heart and soul is, hypnofertility and helping women to bring their babies into the world. I can only see so many private clients, which I do. And I love to see my private clients. That's just one of my favorite things to do. I've also set up some groups so that people can, if they can't get in to see me or for whatever reason, it doesn't line up, they can do group support, and that'll support, IVF or natural fertility. And they can do it. I've set it up so that it's self-paced and they can do it on their own. Mm-hmm. And they can also integrate that with sessions with me if they want to. One of the big things with fertility is it's very private. You mentioned that earlier with the, emotionally sensitive issue. And so people don't want to be in a Facebook group or in some kind of, even on Zoom, where you can see everyone and see their names. And, I work with sometimes people who are very prominent. You would know who they are. And so they don't want to have their, personal struggle there for anyone to see. And so that's part of the reason that I set these up. I do them live every so often, but also there's a self-paced version so people can work with that. And then if they want to, they can do, one of the programs is 3 sessions, one is 9, and they can do, I'm going to have another 3 session I'm creating for the new year, but they can choose what fits for them. And if they want to, they could do 3 sessions in 1 week. And then they have lifetime access so they can continue on.
Well, congratulations on this. Now, where can people reach out to you if they're looking for more information? Do you do meet and greet calls? Because it is an area of sensitivity, and people, a lot of people are not even sure how this would fit in. Do you offer sort of like a place where they can ask their questions before committing, and where can people get a hold of you?
Sure. And I've done some videos on my website so that I can talk to people almost as if I'm talking to them one-on-one. I mean, everyone's individual, but there are a lot of common questions. So I answer those. They can also schedule a call with my amazing assistant, and she can answer questions as well and give them more information. So yes, it is a commitment, and people have questions. Hypnosis is often, it always has been too, a last resort for people, or they don't know a lot about it. And my goal is to get it out there so people realize this is an amazing option for them. So the website is hypnofertility.com. And then, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So it's Lynsi.Eastburn on Instagram and HypnoFertility on Facebook. And then I've written 3 books in this field. And so those are available on Amazon. There is a free ebook copy of The 3 Keys to Conception, Pregnancy Against All Odds. That's my second book. There's a free ebook copy on my website. You can go and find that too.
Wonderful. Well, a very interesting and really eye-opening conversation. Thank you, Lynsi, so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Cathy. It's been a real pleasure.
Everybody, we will talk to you next week on the Health Hub.